ACFS, establish FY25 budgets and modifications to social work, Benogi, LIHEAP, CCDF. FY25 BIA transportation, establish FY25 budgets. Legal, tribal attorney. 2025 Indian Housing Plan amendment. Rebuild of Nuns Creek Lamprey Barrier and Weir. St. Mary's River dredged materials placement recommendation. Award broadband feasibility study, CCC. Tribal operations cyber response. Waiver of sovereign immunity, Horvath Towers 6. Approving contract Newberry Upper Fitness. And then we have a request to add without any objection, waiver of sovereign immunity and consent to waiver of tribal court jurisdiction for Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunities. And then under new business, board concerns. Do we have a motion? Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The agenda is passed as is, and we will actually begin with invocation by Elaine Clement. Thank you so much, Elaine.
Ani Bojo, Gage Gijigo Kwe Indigenous Cause, Megase Dardam, Babating and Donjaba. I'm going to have Miriam go around with the smudge. It is Miriam. Just go that way. So right now we're in Monokame, which is the springtime, so a lot of relatives are busy making maple syrup and maple sugar and all kinds of delicious maple treats. That's always been, my brother's doing it right now, and I know Mike and Becky Pine, who live next door to where my dad lived on Sugar Island, they're busy doing that too, and I have good memories of Isaac's family doing that too down at Ikey's shack and doing all the maple syrup when I was a kid. So it's just a great time. And then also spring is a good time for renewal. That's what we recognize as a first of the year. And then also the thunders. And this is like a good dream time too. So if you want to put out your cloth, whatever your colors are, and have those dreams and put those intentions and offerings out. Now is a great time to do that, and you'll hear those thunders coming in all through the month of March and April. I'll go ahead and get started. And I just, my mom is a fluent speaker, but I'm a student, always learning. And this prayer is from one of my cousins, Isidore Toulouse. And then also at the end of the month, they're going to be doing the Anishinaabe Moantag conference. So if you're interested in attending that, even if you don't want to attend the conference, you can always just go up there and see the vendors and all the beautiful artwork that's for sale up there. I've gotten a lot of really nice pieces up there. It's just a great event that we have here at Quaden. Okay. Miigwech Kajamnado, Kin Kinagego Gagi Jitonya, Miigwech Mishomas Gizes, Gibi Wase Ya Jayan Nungwam, Miigwech Nokamis Debik Gizes, Gibi Wase Ya Jian Nabikug, Miigwech Akimikwe Gi Mijiang, Bamadzuwen Gi Mijang Mijim, Gi Mijayang Nibish, Gi Mijayang Awisnijik, Minwa Gi Mijayang Nasewin, Sema Bagadina Gi Wedanang, Wabanang, Jawanang, Minwa Epengishmak, Nadamoshen, Mashkoga Gabuyan, Minwa, Gijon, Gajun Deke Ayan, Miigwech Jamnado, Miigwech. So this prayer is Thank you, Creator, for all that you have created. Thank you, Grandfather Sun, for shining on us today. Thank you, Grandmother Moon, for shining on us at night. Thank you to Mother Earth for giving us life, for giving us food, for giving us water, for giving us the animals, and for giving us breath. I offer my tobacco to the north, east, south, and to the west. Help me. Help me to stand strong and to have a strong heart. Thank you.
Miigwech Elaine. All right, we'll now move on to membership participation. Michelle is in the back collecting forms. If anybody is interested in addressing the board, you have 5 minutes to do so. Basically just asking you to maintain decorum and not to attack anybody, but your concerns will be heard as you present them. Do we have any? One. We have one. Let me read it really quick. And it's closed. Hold on. Okay, this one is requested to be closed, so I'm going to honor this request. So could we please have everybody leave the room except for Jackie? Session. Are there any other membership concerns before we move on to, or membership participation before we move on to the rest of the agenda? Nothing else? You want to make a statement? Did you fill out a form?
I did not,
Okay.
but it's really simple.
All right. Make sure to use the mic. Come on up, Janet. Janet's going to make a statement.
I just want to say, great job, IT department, for getting us up and running. Because again, they did a great job. So that's all I wanted to say. Miigwech.
Thank you. And also, I would say thank you to our entire tribe who helped us get up and running. And thank you to all the membership who are understanding and concerned for our employees. Because without the balance of people treating each other with respect, it would have been a lot more difficult to get through. So we appreciate everybody's understanding, and we appreciate all of the hard work from all of our employees behind the scenes. And I'll tell you what, I'm pretty sure they enjoyed having a break from us too. So with that, we're going to go into the agenda. So Mr. Treasurer, do you want to read the items? So I'm going to start with the minutes from 2/4/25. Has anybody had a chance to review those and would like to motion them? Motion from Lana. Support from Rob. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have somebody? Bridget, would you volunteer to read the agenda items? Thank you. So continuing funding, health FY25.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors approves continuing funding for the attached cost center list for fiscal year 2025 at their 2024 spending levels for a period not to exceed June 30th, 2025.
Motion by Kim G., support by Isaac. Jen?
Good evening, Jen Clare from the Budget Department. This is a resolution for the Health Division for 75 cost centers that operate October through September and January through December. We had to put in there not to exceed through June 30th. They discussed their comp study today, and once I get the information, their budgets were actually sent to them last week so they could start filling them out, the rest of the budgets besides the personnel. So we will bring those forward as soon as we reviewed them.
Discussion, questions, starting with Isaac.
Hey, Jen, I know there was a little turmoil there trying to create everything, but I appreciate you and your staff. Thank you for getting it all done and the hard work you did.
Any other questions or discussion? This is going to be a roll call.
Lana. Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Sean. Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Kimberly Hampton, not here, sorry. Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
And Tyler can't vote. Okay.
All right, unanimous motion carries. Next on the agenda, continuing funding, governmental FY25.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors approves continuing funding for the attached cost centers for fiscal year 2025 at their 2024 spending levels for a period not to exceed June 30th, 2025.
Motion by Isaac, support by Larry. Jen?
Again, Jen Clare from the Budget Department. This is for the governmental side, January through December budgets. There's 138 of them that we are asking for continued funding for. We've rebuilt the document. It's getting the files through the emails that once I have those, I'll come back, because I know when we were here last, you had asked for some updates and changes to those, so those have not been made yet, but we are working on it.
Thank you, Jen. Any questions on the governmental? Seeing none, roll call.
Sean. Yes. Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Lana.
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Carried.
Unanimous motion carries. Next on the agenda, continuing funding FY26 Schedule A.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors approves continuing funding for the attached cost centers for fiscal year 2026 at their 2025 spending levels for a period not to exceed June 30th, 2025.
Motion by Isaac, support by Kim G. Jen?
This is the Schedule A 2026 budget document. These are not the document, I apologize. These are the budgets that operate April through March. There are 10 of them, and with the lots of information, this will be coming again later, but this is just a standard to get it, to keep them moving. And once we have them completed, we'll bring them forward again.
Thank you, Jen. Any questions on Schedule A continuing? Seeing none, roll call.
Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Lana.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Sean. Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Carried.
Okay, carried unanimously yet again. Thank you very much, Jen. Next on the agenda, Operation Stone Garden, establish FY25 budget.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for Operation Stone Garden with other revenue monies of $39,295.59. No effect on tribal support.
Motion by Isaac, support by Larry. Go ahead, Bob.
Good evening, Bob Marchand, Chief of Police with Sioux Tribe Police. What this will do is establish the FY 2025 budget for Operation Stone Garden funding, which provides overtime, repair and maintenance for the vehicles that we use during those overtime hours, and fuel for our vehicles during those hours.
Questions or discussion for Bob? What was the total on that? All right, so we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you, Bob.
Great, thank you.
Next, we have another Bob. FY25 buildings capital expenditure budget.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the FY 2025 Buildings Capital Expenditure Budget for a total of $600,000 with funds coming from the building funds balance.
Motion by Isaac. Second by Lana. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, Bob Schulte, CFO for the Facilities Department. This is the operating capital expenditure budget for facilities for fiscal year 2025. All of these funds will be used from the building fund, no effect on travel support.
Thank you. Bob, any questions on the capital expenditures? Seeing none, we do need a roll call.
Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Lana.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Sean. Larry.
Yes.
Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Unanimous, motion carries again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Tribal Youth Initiative, establish FY25 budget.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for Tribal Youth Initiative with federal BIA revenue monies of $8,183.96, no effect on tribal support.
Motion by Isaac, support by Rob. Go ahead, Jack.
Hello, Jack Timikowski, lead for the fisheries program, AGN and Wendiang. These funds would help support tribal youth engagement for our Boats to School program and our Sturgeon in the Classroom program. These are carry-forward funds from a previous application, and there's no effect on tribal support.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Jack? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, Epufet Harbor Access, establish FY25 budget.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for Epufet Harbor Access Road with federal USDA revenue monies of $21,598. No effect on travel support.
Motion by Lana, support by Isaac. Christine?
Yes, what this is a budget for 2025 to finish the EPOFED road access. Currently, we are getting permission from a private landlord owner to drive into the dock, and this has been long in coming, and last winter came sooner than we thought, so we couldn't finish it last year. And as soon as the road limitations are lifted, which they're currently on, Sioux Tribe Construction will start and finish that road.
Any questions or comments for Christine? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, ACFS, establish FY25 budgets and modifications for social work, Benoji, LIHEAP, and CCDF.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for social work with federal BIA monies of $793,452 and tribal support monies of $240,697.58. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for Benoji with state of Michigan monies of $1,059,812.21 and other revenue monies of $57,000. No effect on travel support. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the FY 2025 budget modification for LIHEAP for an increase in federal HHS revenue monies of $155,938 and a decrease in travel support monies of $30,108.62. Be it finally resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the FY 2025 budget modification for CCDF for a decrease in federal HHS revenue monies of $3,315.15. No effect on travel support.
Motion by Isaac, support by Mike. Megan, go ahead.
Good evening, Megan Miller with ACFS. What this resolution is going to do, and we're lumping them together, is we had an increase in our LIHEAP award this year. We also have our accountant is retiring after 30-plus years with the tribe. We would like to fund a special projects accounting person to replace that accountant, and we're proposing to take 25% out of each of these 4 budgets to fund that position.
Any questions or comments? Lana.
So Megan, the copies here are really hard to read. What did the LIHEAP increase this year?
So the actual increase in the award was $173,153. So we are putting $107,288 into the direct services line to increase direct services, and then we are hoping to fund 25% of that special project accountant position with ACFS.
Well, that's great news, because in the past, we have had to put more money towards LIHEAP, $60,000. You know, I've remembered a few different times that we had to do this, so that should keep us out, that should keep us through saying that we won't have to put tribal support, and we won't run out of money, probably.
That's my hope. That is my hope.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Larry.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Isaac. Isaac, oh.
Wanted to see you look up.
Oh, I'm focused. Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Lana.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
All right.
All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, FY25 BIA Transportation, establish FY25 budgets.
Be Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for transportation with federal BIA monies of $310,774.22. No effect on tribal support. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for IRR road maintenance with federal BIA monies of $150,000. No effect on tribal support. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for the transportation road construction with federal BIA monies of $3,357,000. No effect on tribal support. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for transportation road maintenance with federal BIA monies of $10,000. No effect on tribal support. Be it finally resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the establishment of FY 2025 budget for transportation bridge maintenance with federal BIA monies of $150,000. No effect on tribal support.
Motion by Isaac, second by Lana. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, Bob Schulte, CFO. This will establish the transportation budget for fiscal year 2025. It's actually 5 different budgets, including construction and operations for this current year.
Any questions or comments for Bob on this project? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Sean. Lana. Isaac.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, unanimous, passes again. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, legal, tribal attorney.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors approve the salary for the tribal attorney ACFS referenced in the resolution information sheet effective immediately. This change will be reflected in the FY 2025 budget submitted.
Support.
Motion by Isaac, support by Rob. Aaron.
I emailed you last week about this resolution. The information is contained on the RS sheet, the second page. We're looking to accelerate the comp study in regards to this employee for reasons discussed on last week's email.
Any questions for Aaron that we can ask him publicly? Any discussion? Bridget?
I guess I was hoping we could have discussed this earlier, but that was my fault that I didn't bring it up. But I understand it all, and I'm not saying I don't support, but there's also some issues I have that I obviously can't say publicly, so.
Would you like to go into close for this?
You can close quick if you want.
All right, we're going into closed session to discuss this since it is an employee matter. We'll call you all back in as soon as we're done with this discussion. Is there any discussion left for this topic? Rob?
As the board liaison for the Child Welfare Committee, I would say that this position is absolutely crucial, and the employee in the position is exceptional, and I think that we owe her a great deal of gratitude, because if you were to select any attorney that we work with on a daily basis as far as in the field of child welfare, you would pick her every time. And I think that we have an absolute asset in her being here, and I support this 100%.
Thank you, Rob. Anyone else? All right, roll call.
Aaron.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Sean.
Yeah.
Larry.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Lana.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Aaron. Next on the agenda, 2025 Indian Housing Plan Amendment.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians Board of Directors and Sioux Tribe Housing Commission does agree to follow the HUD-approved Indian Housing Plan in order to provide housing opportunities. Be it further resolved that the Sioux Tribe Housing Authority Director is authorized to submit the 2025 IHP amendment in the HUD online GEMS system. Be it finally resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby authorize the tribal chairman, or his designee to negotiate, execute, and amend any and all documents resulting therefrom on the tribe's behalf on a contract between the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Native American Programs.
Motion by Lana, support by Isaac. Maria?
Good evening. I'm Maria Mangine. I'm the Sioux Tribe Housing Assistant Director. I'm here on behalf of Joni, who's on travel tonight. This resolution will allow amendment to the 2025 Indian Housing Plan. We inadvertently missed an energy-efficient roof replacement in the original plan, so this resolution would allow us to make the amendment in GEMS system to HUD.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Marie? Hearing none, roll call.
Excuse me. Bridget.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Lana.
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Carried.
Carried unanimous. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, rebuild of Nuns Creek Lamprey Barrier and Weir.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Sioux Tribe Board of Directors authorizes the division to work on cooperative design of these structures and allows for implementation of structural rebuilds by the GFFC and USFWS. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors hereby authorizes and approves the chairman of the tribe or their designee to execute any and all documents as may be necessary and appropriate to carry out the terms, conditions, and intent of this resolution.
Motion by Lana, support by Isaac. Jack?
Jack Timokowski, Fisheries Program Manager. The lamprey weir and barrier were built in the 80s. They're near the end of their life. These types of structures last 40 or 50 years. The Great Lakes Fishery Commission, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, is able to rebuild this as part of their lamprey program. The barrier prevents lamprey from going upstream. If it weren't there, they would have to treat the stream as part of their rotation. With this resolution, we'd like to work cooperatively with the Commission and the Fish and Wildlife Service to develop design and plans for the building of the project, and recognizing that before any construction would take place, there'd have to be a further memorandum of agreement or something like that to codify the agreement between the agencies for the weir. Verbally, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife has stated that the tribe will own the weir after construction. They'll be responsible for maintenance throughout the life of the structure.
Any questions or comments for Jack? Isaac?
This is a question for Lana. Are you gonna, do you have legible copies of this? I mean, this is like the third or fourth resolution.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. Yeah, all the attachments.
I'm just hoping when you put it in an
printer's
electronic
running out.
file that it's legible.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so this is just for an agreement to work with them? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Jack. Next is St. Mary's River Dredge Materials Placement Recommendation.
Now therefore be it resolved, the Sioux Tribe Board of Directors authorizes the division to develop recommendations to USACE regarding dredge materials placement. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors hereby authorizes and approves the chairman of the tribe or their designee to execute any and all documents as may be necessary and appropriate to carry out the terms, conditions, and intent of this resolution.
Motion. Motion by Larry, support by Kim G. Jack?
One more detail to sort of characterize this process. This is the early part of the process. We'll have an ability, the tribes will have ability to comment on the Army Corps placement document that they developed this summer. This process will probably have to go through NEPA before they can place these sediments anywhere. But the real utility of this resolution is to note that the sites that they have recommended for the bulk of the materials are harmful for aquatic ecosystems, and they should supply better recommendations.
Thank you. Any questions? Isaac?
Hey, Jack, in the future, could you just have a map of where this is taking place? It would be beneficial, like especially down the road.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Award Broadband Feasibility Study, CCC.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians Board of Directors hereby approves the Broadband Feasibility Services Agreement with Cherry Capital Connection for $140,000 from Cost Center 13051. This activity is fully grant funded by BIA Indian Economic Development National Tribal Broadband Grant. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors hereby authorizes and approves the tribal chairman or his designee to execute any and all documents, including as may be necessary and appropriate to carry out the terms, conditions, and intent of this resolution. Motion.
Motion by Bridget, support by Larry. Go ahead, Dan.
All right, this resolution is seeking authorization to enter into an agreement with Cherry Capital Connections to perform a feasibility study for broadband initiatives within the 7-county service area. RFP 25-020 was issued, and Cherry Capital is the selected vendor.
Any comments, questions for Dan? Isaac?
Danny, what's the difference in the price and why?
Between the grant award versus the contract price?
Yeah.
That is because we have indirect and internal costs. So the rest of the overage from the contract is to cover those internal costs. And we actually did negotiate the bid down for that, and if we need to amend it afterwards, that will need to be done via an amendment agreement. So we wanted this to be fully covered by the BIA Indian Economic Broadband Grant.
So did Merit not submit a full bid?
Correct. They were lacking in a few areas.
Do we have a copy of that bid recommendation of where they're lacking?
You should have a copy of the bid recommendation. I do not know.
What areas were they lacking?
Off the top of my head, I do not know, but I think in our assessment that Cherry Capital had more knowledge of what our goals were too, so even if they weren't lacking in those areas, we would have went with them due to the fact that they are more familiar with us, and it was a very minor difference.
Yeah, my concern, though, is simply that we're not selecting the lowest bidder, and you're telling us because there was recommendations, but I don't see no recommendation letter from you guys explaining why you're not taking the lowest bidder.
There is a bid recommendation included, correct, from purchasing?
Yeah, but that's just a recommendation. It doesn't explain why you're taking the low bidder.
Okay, well, that would be the case, is that they are more familiar with our strategy. It was a couple % variance between bids, and they seem to have a better concept on what we're trying to accomplish.
In the future, I think that's imperative that we receive that information, especially when we're not selecting the low bidder. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Dan on this project? So I kind of have the same concern that Isaac does, is not necessarily the low bidder, but the first native bidder above this one is only 6% difference. And I know that's a little bit beyond our threshold, but I think that still needs to be revisited. Just a note for the future. I know that's not on you. That's a tribal-wide thing that we need to revisit. Like, what does it mean to have native preference? Is 6% too big of a threshold for native preference? I'd like to have that discussion in the future, but for this one, I have no other feedback for you. Thank you. We'll go ahead and roll call.
Sean.
Yes.
Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Lana.
Yes.
Isaac.
No.
Larry.
Yes.
Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Aaron.
No.
Michael.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Yep.
Motion carries. Thank you, Dan.
All right, thank you.
Next on the agenda, Tribal Operations Cyber Response.
Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Directors hereby authorizes the tribe's risk manager, director, CEO, and CFO to create the necessary internal processes to address the financial impact of this cyber attack, including exclusions under the emergency provision of the current purchasing policy, any necessary budgets along with the financial transfer of funds. All such purchasing exclusions, budgets, and financial transfers will be reported to the Board of Directors on a monthly basis. Be it further resolved that the CFO is authorized to create the necessary cost centers and to take such additional steps as may be appropriate to assure a full and proper accounting and reconciliation of any funds utilized to actively pursue the insurance claims. Be it further resolved that the chairman of the tribe or his designee is authorized to execute or amend any and all documents relating to this cyber event.
Motion by Kim Gravel. Support by Rob. Bob.
Yes, Bob Schulte, CFO. We put this resolution together to address some of the financial impact of the cyber event that we've been going through for the last month. What I wanted to do was make sure that under the emergency provision of the current purchasing policy, that we included this event or identified this event so that it gives us a little bit more flexibility to do RFPs faster, get recommendations done quicker, all in order, similar to what we did during the COVID crisis. We did the same thing with our purchasing policy. And also, we've already set up some cost centers. We're working on setting up some budgets. I just wanted to make sure that we can go ahead and do these more timely and get them done as quickly as possible so that we can get. We got a lot of moving pieces on this cyber event when it comes to the financial side of things. We have insurance claims. We're going to have deductible expenses, things of that nature. I will be bringing a budget to the board for the deductible side of the expenses at this point, just so that we can get that set up and get. We haven't had anything processed through financially, but I anticipate we'll be seeing that pretty quickly.
Thanks, Bob. Lana?
So, Bob, that means you won't be, this is going to give you guys the authority to expedite what needs to be spent. We won't do a budget mod. It'll give you guys the authority to do that, and you report on a monthly basis on what that is, justification and how much, what it was for.
Correct.
Where are you going to give that monthly report? In your reporting system, or are you going to come in verbally? How is that going to be set up for the reporting process of that?
I was thinking about initially doing it in my reporting process on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I think that, and you do that bi-weekly now, but, or, yeah, bi-weekly, I think bi-weekly.
It has
but,
been
yeah.
bi-weekly. I think we're going to move to monthly. but
I just
it
want to
still
make
would be
sure,
monthly.
because sometimes some of us get some information and some of us don't. So I think that it's imperative that that be included in your monthly report so that we absolutely know what is expended and why it's expended, if we're going to expedite it and give that authority over.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Anyone else? Rob?
So similar lines of what Lana said, I agree with it, that there needs to be a process to handle these things in a timely manner when they need to be handled. And if the report's coming through on a monthly basis, I'm okay with that. But when does that appear to where the membership can view it?
I hadn't really thought about that, but I could release it at the same time I release information to the board, or does the board want to?
Well, and the reason I ask is because anything else would have to come in public meeting, which the membership has a right to know. So if we're doing something that cuts that process out, we need to make sure that there's a way that the membership sees what we're spending.
Right, and I would still have to bring to the board the contract to award if it was significant enough. So that would be out in the public domain at that point.
Okay,
Just talking about
and I'm sure that
purchasing policy.
I'm sure that legal would have to be involved in that process.
Yes, oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
There might be a few items that are tied to litigation that we're going to want to keep under wraps for the time being. We talked about two early this morning. Christine gave a presentation on two. I hadn't thought about whether we need to keep that close to the chest or not, but we will. So I think what we'll do then maybe is if there's things that are very related to litigation, we'll just note that those need to be kept quiet at the table. And then you'll be aware of them, but we won't publicize that. I haven't thought it all the way through, to be honest with you.
No, and that's completely understandable, and I agree with it. I just think that we need to be clear of when we're going to release the information that we can, and the ones that's determined that we can't, there needs to be a time certain of when we will.
Understood.
So whether it's, when
it's done.
When it's done and over with and it poses no liability to us at all, we need to make sure that that's available to the membership.
Right, understood.
Thank you.
Yes. Aaron?
So this was a big issue that actually came up last night at our Unit 1 meeting. So I'll address it now because I'm not sure if I will get a chance later, because for the last 3 meetings in a row, our items have stopped before I got to share my issues. One of those is if we could talk about what is open and closed. We've danced around going back to quarterly meetings and updates. Those used to be open to the public. This one is a little different, but to the extent that we can address it, those could happen in afternoon sessions. But what came up at our meeting is that we develop a list and a more refined list of what is open and what is closed. When it's proprietary, it's not enough just to say it's proprietary, because we don't review that. We don't get to determine whether or not we agree that it's proprietary. I think we will always support, if it is proprietary, going into closed session. But we're not part of that determination, and I don't think that we have to be, but I do think we have to have a clear policy established that we vote on, that everybody has to comply with. So, and I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody that's not doing it right or anything, but it does feel like we're going into closed session an awful lot, and that's different.
Any other comments or feedback on this topic? I can assure you that I will not close this meeting until everybody is heard. So, yeah, I have no idea what that. Anything else, Bob?
No, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron, for speaking up as well to protect the tribes. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to do a roll call vote on this one.
Kimberly Lee. Isaac.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Lana.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
All right, unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, waiver of sovereign immunity, Horvath Towers 6.
You want to waive the reading, Tyler?
Any objection to waiving the reading on this one? Nope. We need a motion. Motion by Kim Gravel.
Need a second? Oh, I didn't hear him.
Sean seconds. Go ahead, Josh. It's on you.
Josh Elliott, Legal Department. This resolution is seeking a waiver sovereign immunity to enter into a DAS agreement with Horvath Towers. And this DAS agreement is to allow them to place DAS systems at the St. Ignace, Manistee, and Christmas casinos. And these will help boost cell phone reception in those areas. This is similar to a lease agreement, but instead of them paying a fee to utilize our space, we would be getting the benefit of getting the better cell phone reception in these areas. And we have gone in extensive negotiations with them over this agreement. They were willing to agree to tribal law controlling the agreement, but they wanted a binding arbitration clause, so any disagreements over the contract would be decided in arbitration and not in court.
Thank you, Josh. Bridget?
So Josh, do we know where these are going?
They're going in the casinos, but once we have an agreement, they're going to develop a specific site plan on where in the casinos.
So they're going to be in the casinos?
Yes.
So then this is different than the ones on site. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions relating to this tower? Isaac?
Hey, will this affect our agreement with AT&T and the cell boosters that they put in those locations?
No, this is a different type of agreement than what we have with AT&T and those sites.
Yeah, but I know, my concern would be the interference in the, that it doesn't affect the current service.
I do not know the specifics on how it could impact the current AT&T boosters.
Yeah, I would truly recommend that, especially even our Wi-Fi service, anytime you put different RF in the air, you're gonna pose problems if they're not in sync. So I'm hoping somebody will take a look at it.
Any other questions or comments for Josh on this topic? All right. Roll call.
Rob.
Yes.
Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Lana.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, approving contract Newberry Uper Fitness.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians hereby approves the contract with Newberry Uper Fitness. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors hereby directs the CEO of Health Services to include the cost to carry out the intent of this resolution in the 2025 Community Health Budget to be approved by the Board of Directors and a cost center determined by the CEO of Health Services.
Motion by Lana.
Support.
Support by Larry, I think. Was that Larry?
Kim?
Kimley. Support by Kimley.
Give it to Kim.
Almost be there.
Josh?
No.
Are you on this? Or
No,
Jen?
we're the sponsor. Kim and I.
Oh, okay, you guys are the.
Kim and I. Want me to speak? Okay. I think we brought it up, Kim and I brought it up back in, it was either December or January, about working towards getting some community fitness in the Newberry and surrounding areas. We've spoke with Jess, we've spoke with James, And we've had numerous tribal members and people at Tribal Health reach out to us about getting that service up there at that new Uper Fitness gym. We had the service in the past for community health and wellness and fitness at Newberry Joy Hospital, but that is outdated and not appropriate. They're under construction for some other purpose now, so I don't even think they have that service to offer. So I know that other areas had contracted with Uper Fitness. I know it's under, I think the last amounts we got was under $5,000 for the members that would retain that service. And again, this is something that the community is asking for, as well as the community health clinic up there has requested that from the employees up that way. So I appreciate the resolution and hoping that we can have James move forward for that. Thank you.
Josh?
And to add one thing onto this, generally, this is not the type of contract that has to come to the board for approval, but since health is still operating on a continuing funding resolution, they do not have their 2025 budget yet, so they needed this resolution to dedicate putting this contract into the budget before we could enter into the contract.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because we had, normally when we want something, it does take a little bit of extra effort. So I appreciate you saying why it had to be this way, because normally it would just go through in their budget.
Mike?
I'm going to say this for all resolutions. I hate it when we don't have an amount on here.
Yeah, they need to be in the resolution.
They need to be in the resos. I hear you saying it's probably going to be under 5K, which is great, but it doesn't say that. And so my concern is that if we say we enter into this contract, and I see where it's going to be approved by the board later as a budget, but if we enter into a contract, but then say no to a budget, we would be in a legal quandary. So I don't like when we put resos like this where it says, hey, we're going to go into a contract, but we're going to approve the budget later. I'm not a fan of it. If we were to put an amount, amend this and put an amount up to 5K, and that would give us time up until we determine the 2025 budget, I would support that if that would be a reasonable amendment if somebody, but I'd like to discuss it, so I'll yield.
Lana, then Aaron?
Yep, and I will make an amendment for $5,000, not to exceed $5,000. I will say, ever since December and January, we have worked with administration in order to lock down an amount. Josh helped us with this resolution that never came about, so we got information, kind of spinning our wheels, kind of getting a lot of pressure from tribal members up in that area to get something done. This is where we're at. I never got the answer to that. I completely agree with Mike, and I completely agree that those numbers should be in there. If it exceeds that, or if it's going to exceed that, I guess we'll come back and ask for more, but my amendment would be not to exceed $5,000.
You're motioning to amend?
Yes.
Support by Isaac. So not to exceed, amendment for not to exceed $5,000. Discussion, starting with Aaron.
So my discussion on this is we need to maybe do it without, maybe just without objection. That amendment should be for a duration, because I don't know what the total amount is. You may not be able to enter the agreement with 5,000 if that's all they got to work with. If it's for 3 months, then the amount that we authorize should be until the budget is approved, but they shouldn't be held back from entering an agreement because it's only 5,000, because it might be more than 5,000.
Right.
So if there's no objection, it's for the duration of a term until we can enact a longer-term one, I guess. I don't know how you want to phrase that, but.
How could we phrase that, Josh?
So to provide some additional information, so they have the same set amount for their yearly contracts with all the fitness centers they enter into these agreements for. So this would be the same amount for each yearly contract.
For 5?
I believe that is 2,000 or 3,000.
Oh, okay. Good.
So this covers 20?
Good.
This covers 25?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think we need to amend that further.
After we vote on, so you have to ask if without objection to pull the amendment.
Do you have any other?
I do have something else to say.
On
But I'll wait
on the
till-
amendment?
This is on the floor, so you got to take care of it.
You were on the list, Aaron, I'm just seeing.
I'm on the list from before.
Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment? All right. Anyone opposed? Without objection. All right, amendment carries not to exceed $5,000. Now, Aaron is next on the list. Lana, were you finished with your amendment piece? Aaron, you're next on the
Yeah,
list for the main
so,
motion.
we've said this several times now in the last 6 months, and it isn't registering somehow or another. So let's those of us who support ensuring that the amounts are included in the resolution, let's bring a resolution and just do it, because it's not happening. And I listened to the board meetings for the time that I wasn't here. There's all kinds of stuff that was said that's just not accurate, not correct. We have always referenced the attachments. Some of the items are not even referencing the attachments anymore. We need to reference the attachments, because if we approve something, we have to be able to see what's attached. If it's proprietary, we generally don't approve those minutes until after we secure an agreement to purchase or something, and then after that's done, then the minutes get approved. We hold off on approving the minutes for that reason. So the amount needs to be included in the resolution, because otherwise we're not following the Constitution. And we need to have transparency here. So let's bring a resolution to mandate that the amounts in the resolutions have to be in the resolved section of the resolution. And if there's detailed attachments, we have to make reference to the attachments. So 10 years from now, no, 20 years from now, maybe when Lana's ready to retire, then we want to be able to find these documents. And right now, without having a reference to an attachment or the attachment, we won't be able to piece that together.
So I'm in agreement.
Isaac.
I'm in agreement with Aaron, and Aaron, if you do that resolution, I'll sponsor it. And the reason that I see it, right, if you have a separation from the resolution language in the attachment of the other materials, you'd never know what the cost would have been. So let's be thinking ahead of the game, so it's covered in both spots, so nothing can be lost down the road. Thank you.
Anybody else? Totally agree, exempting business transactions. All right, $5,000. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you very much. I better see you at the gym. Yeah, I know. I have another resolution. The next resolution on the agenda is waiver of, what's that?
Oh, the added one, did we?
Yeah, I'm on this right now. The next item on the agenda is waiver of sovereign immunity and consent to waiver of tribal court jurisdiction, Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity.
Motion.
Anyone object to waiving the reading on this one? No objections. We need a motion. Bridget motions. Second by Isaac. Go ahead, Josh.
This resolution is seeking to enter into a grant agreement with the state of Michigan for the funding for the Lodge of Hope. This resolution is different from most waiver resolutions, because generally waiver resolutions are brought forward because the other party isn't willing to agree to language without the tribe agreeing to specific jurisdiction. But this one is being requested by ACFS due to the time sensitivity of this, having to spend these funds by September 30th and concerned about delays with the state of Michigan in negotiating terms for language that is acceptable. The state of Michigan has expressed they are willing to negotiate, and legal is going to work with them to develop language for future agreements. But right now, by doing a waiver here, it is low risk, low liability for the tribe, since it is just a grant agreement. So legal would have no issues with a waiver for this agreement.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions or discussion for Josh on this topic? See none, roll call.
Rob.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Kimberly Lee.
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Lana. Larry.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Kimberly Gravel.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Unanimous, motion carries. Thank you very much, Josh. That moves us into new business. Next on the agenda is board concerns. Does anyone have any concerns they would like to bring up? Bridget, Aaron, Kim G, Rob, Lana. Do we have paper for any of them, or are we just going?
You have mine.
I forgot to
You
put
always
that
have
in
mine.
packets.
I don't have a piece of.
Okay, so I said Bridget, Aaron, Kim G, Rob, Lana. We'll go in that order to start. So Bridget, go ahead.
Okay, one quick, easy one. Bob, you're still in the room. Are we going to have the police academy this year?
Hey, let's do it.
No? I thought it was in the budget, one of the budgets I saw, I thought. Okay, but you're not doing it.
Can you,
Can we get an update in the future about what's going on with Botany Bay? Okay. The next thing, Christine, this is probably for you, but with the recent changes to the state, and I know we don't have to follow the state, but a lot of things that we do with minimum wage and whatnot, but with the change in the sick hours, and I know government should be fine, but the casino only has 4 sick days. I don't think EDC, I don't even know if they get 1 sick day. So are we going to be making changes, and I guess that those entities aren't yours, I guess. So, but I wondered if that's on our radar and we're going to be making any changes for those employees.
There's an existing resolution, and I'll have to check if the casino and EDC is included on it, that mandates that we follow any changes to state or federal wages, minimum wage and/or hours. So, but I can definitely check with the casino and EDC. Governmental would be covered by that because we do meet those.
Are those all of your issues, Bridget? Okay. Moving on to Aaron.
okay. So.
Oh, we got it. Just kidding. I'm
Before-
sorry.
Well, before I was ever chairperson, when I was a board member, people can think back that long, I always brought my issues on a sheet of paper. I used to actually hand out copies to the audience, but our audiences are not very populated these days. So I always write them out. I have been, by habit, always providing them to Lana ahead of time. The last 3 meetings, if you go back and look at the tape, our meetings have shut down before I've gotten a chance to speak. And it's, you didn't chair those, so I can't point the finger at you, but, and I'm not pointing the finger at Austin necessarily, but I know that Rob was given the floor for a closed session item ahead of the item that I put on the agenda. So I formally submitted it, I put that on the agenda. He requested a closed session. We went into that closed session, and it took a long time. When we came back out, we adjourned the meeting. So I didn't get to ask that issue. Earlier, I got cut off, and then we went into a closed session for about 20 minutes to address Bridget's item. My comment was just a very quick comment. It was going to be to agree mostly with what Lana said, and it was in reference to bringing back the quarterly meetings. So it was a very simple, quick question. I don't know, because we're friends, and you look over, and I was like, well, you know, if it were somebody that doesn't like me, maybe I'll give them the floor, but we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't play favorites on that. I know we had other agenda items to get to, but we did end up having another half hour, so I got cut off for another half hour. So it wasn't like we were jumping to the rest of the agenda items. And you did go back into closed session at a board member's request, but cutting off my issue. So we got to be cognizant, and we have to be fair to everybody on this board when we're doing that. And I'm not just looking at you, because this happened twice before this meeting today. And it didn't happen today, so thank you. The item that did get cut off the last time that I tried to bring it up right before the pandemic was, when are we going to schedule our constitutional reviews? So I have asked more than once, let's project out what that looks like, because people are saying we're playing a game and we're not going to get back to it. Some people have unduly said that we orchestrated the whole cyber attack so we wouldn't have to do the constitutional review, which is just stupid. So, and I told people online when they said that that was stupid. But we can project out a timeline and a set of meetings for when we're going to get back to the review. Those should be held in public. We should post the dates for those well in advance, because even the last one, we only had it out maybe not even a week before we did it. So if we're taking this serious, and if we really are going to move forward, we have to continue, and we got to get back to business, and let's let the people participate in that process. So that's the item I was going to raise when I didn't get a chance to raise it. So finally, on the COLA and merit thing, just to say very simply, when we were discussing this, it was said that it was suggested that the 3% CPI, somebody suggested that they shouldn't get the full 3% for COLA, but some of that portion should be merit. If that's what was intended to be said, that is not the policy of the tribe. The policy of the tribe is 3% CPI based on inflation, COLA based on CPI and inflation. So if we start talking about merit increases, and that was an open public session, that needs to be on top of COLA, because that's policy of the tribe is COLA is 3%. So we're not debating whether or not to take away 1% of that 3% and make that merit and then give COLA at a 2% or a 1%. That is not the position of the tribe. It might have been erroneously stated. Maybe it is the position of the person who stated it, but that's not my position, and I will not support cutting into that COLA to fractionate that out to merit. So, and I wanted to make it statement at the time because people that were watching it, team members were watching it, and they sent me messages saying, wait a minute, is our COLA in jeopardy? And my response back to them was, no, that's not the position of the tribe. So, and it would have been better if it were timely stated then, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So that's it.
Kim G.
Okay, Lana answered one of my board concerns was why we were going into close for JKL. And we used to get a list who got the construction bids for the tribe, and I'd like to see us start to get that again, and if they're the lowest bidder, are they getting them? That's your concern you had with the tower. Is that what it was? Yeah. And then Aaron and I had talked about UPTA, or no, Aaron Schluleber talked about UPTA. I'm getting my Aarons mixed up.
What did you call me?
Aaron's a
I don't know
cobbler
how
now.
to say your last name. Aaron S. And we were talking about supporting Neebish Island with UPTA. So if we could get that on a discussion, I'd appreciate it. And then also I talked to someone from the BIA. There's 5 employees there right now. And I talked to Aaron Paymont about this one. And 2 of them are like conservation or biologists, whatever. So their lease is up at the end of the month, but they're still employed, but they have nowhere to go. And they have heard nothing. So, and one of them's retiring, so they had 4 employees. One's retiring and one's out on sick, I believe. And I'm like, we should be able to house them somewhere, and if we have to house them for any length of time, we could ask the other tribes to help support the space costs, because they do work for all 12 tribes in Michigan. So it's not like we're looking for a big space, except for if they had to move their filing room. That is, there's a lot of files in there, but it still wouldn't be that big of a space for 3 employees and maybe 4 employees in their filing. So that's something I'd like to talk about too. So, and then that was it.
Okay, you guys, make sure you send, I got you back on the list, Aaron. Make sure you guys send your list to Lana. She's doing her best to capture it. I just want to make sure that anything you wanted her to follow up on is captured, so just send her a quick email. Rob, you're next, then Lana, then back to Aaron.
We're not going to be able to address on her issue.
Is that what you want to do?
We normally do that. I think Lana had her hand up too.
You guys want to address this issue specifically?
For me.
All right. Lana, then Aaron.
Yeah, I don't think I dreamt it, but I do think that there was a conversation that maybe I overheard it at this level, but I wasn't in the know, and I don't think all of the board is in the know, as usual, that someone was discussing that path of actually offering up some space for for them to go to, those workers. So we haven't been formally told that. Like I said, I heard it through the grapevine. I don't know if anybody in administration has anything that they can share with us on that. I completely support that. I think that is a wonderful idea if we can get the other tribes to help us. If we don't, I'm fine with doing it on our own. That's something that, we can be proactive about. But is there any kind of update that somebody can give us? Because truthfully, I hear this out on the street and not at this table. So I'm hearing bits and pieces right now, but I know there's a plan in place. We're just not aware of that.
Can I ask my question before we get an answer?
Yeah. Aaron, go ahead.
So, all right, so it's been almost 3 weeks since Kim and I asked this question, and maybe we can say it's not our problem, but the people that work in the BIA are mostly our Sioux Tribe members, right? So this game that's being played at the federal level is toxic and it's horrible because these people don't even know if they have a job. They've already been told they can't do remote detail, so it's not like they can just stay at home and do the work anyway. And they've been told that their lease is up at the end of this month. If I were one of those people, I'd think my job is done at the end of this month. I need to start looking for something else. There are tribal members. And then, so that's only 5 people you said. It was more before. We thought it was more.
There was.
Kim, use your mic if you're going to respond.
One's retiring the end of the month, and I think one's out on sick, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
And so that leaves 3 from here, and the other 2 are detailed in for biology or conservation or something.
Okay.
So there's 5.
They're forestry.
Forestry.
Yeah,
And I
one of
think-
them is Terry Verdon's son.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think those 2 could be put with our biology over in Greenough, and then the other 3 we could find, or 4 when the other one comes back.
Let's let Christine answer because she came over to.
Research
Can I
on
finish
it.
my part?
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking about 5 people, and then also the IHS sanitation people. And it makes sense for us to keep those people in this community because, again, we could say it's not our problem, they're federal employees, they'll get sucked over to Wisconsin or Minnesota. But the reason why I would like to keep those people in this community is because they do the intake work and review and prepare the paperwork for ACFS. They have a seamless relationship. They evaluate for sanitation and for, wells and septics. So I would prefer to have those people local so they understand our community, they understand our contracting, they understand our seasons, and we don't have some bureaucrat in a different state that doesn't understand what they're looking at when they get the list of people that have the priority to get wells and septics. So we're only talking like maybe a total of maybe 8 people. So I know that we could use, I know I've already asked the question and I've already been told there's no space, but we have a vacant building in Shedawin right now. We're going to tear it down, but I'm not asking to permanently place these people. They just need some comfort in knowing that they're going to have a place to go to work on April 1st, but April 2nd, right? And the BIA people, we can find the space. We can merge them. It's a temporary arrangement. There are people, and they're horribly stressed out right now because they don't even know if they have a job come April 1st. What a horrible thing to lose your job on April 1st.
Christine?
Yes, so I did get a request, I think from Aaron and Kim. At the time, you guys were asking for 11 spots, if I remember right. Or 12. And so I let them know that I had a land and space meeting that Thursday of last week. And so I did bring that to the group to find out whether or not there's any available space. And unfortunately, we don't have any currently. We will have it once we get the Natural Resource Building up. So I was thinking, we have Greeno, we'd have the enrollment building and the other building there that we're looking for people to move into that. And so I didn't think, now sanitation works for housing. Joni's also looking to come into town for her resident assistants to be able to pay bills, different things, and there would be extra space there, so I could double check. Now that I know more information, I can go back and try to see whether or not there is that, and I'm not sure what the time frame for her to remodel, but going into negotiation with Don Evo Building. It's on reservation. So found out about that. So at this point, he didn't have a concrete yes or no, but that's the update from Thursday's meeting. I can, again, call the meeting and find out further now that if I know the right amount of people that were coming. I understand, they do work for us. Work for us with sanitation and, the BIA. We will try, I'll look again and try to get an answer for you next week.
Do we even know that the government will allow them to do this?
They're doing it until the there are lawsuits filed. And it looks like we might be winning on the lawsuits, but that's only as good as the legislature, because, like on the Department of Ed, there's lawsuits being lined up to fight that.
Right, I'm talking about allowing them to work with the tribe to move them in.
Yes, I talked with the HR director for National Indian Health Services, and it's an easy process. There's a form for a waiver to fill out, and it's an easy process. I talked to him 2 weeks ago, and then he called me recently and said, are you guys going to do anything? Because this is imminent. This is going to happen. They're not getting any word that this is like a game or it's not going to happen. Come March 31st, they don't have any place to go to work. So.
Isaac, Lana?
Hey, Christine, I think an easier solution would be I know that building over there is pretty rough shape, so it'd have to take a lot to remodel it, but they could probably get into the church, St. Isaac Joe's, the back hall there, because the school was looking at renting it for the high school, and I think the fee would have been about $800 a month, but I mean, once you put a budget together, I mean, we really need to know the true cost to the tribe before we house anybody, right? I mean, it sounds really nice to do it, but we have a lot of things on the horizon that's gonna financially affect us, so let's not just, write a blank check for all of this stuff. I'm caution everyone on this board to be careful about spending money.
St. Joseph's School, who has that, facilities?
No, it's St. Isaac Joe's Church,
Oh,
the
St.
hall in the back. I got the Father Dominic's number, I'll send it to you.
Okay, because I was going to say, that I don't know about that. Yep.
Lana?
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, Isaac, when it comes to figuring out what the cost would be to house them. But the cost not to do something and try to find a resource with the uncertainty of what they do for us or other tribes or Indian country it's something that we should look towards. And I know this may or may not be feasible because it's been ignored for so many years, but we do have Wakeweok, and it's not in Sault Ste. Marie, but it is a place that, there has been no plan for. There hasn't been anything that we've done really there in that house. So that is, I don't know if we can renovate it or whatever, but in a dire situation, that is space that we have. That is something that we have. And for years, it's just, sat there. I'm not even sure that anybody, has been in there in a while. What do you use it for?
We bought tables and chairs, and we use it when there's sweat lodges and activities at the cemetery.
So it would be feasible to be able to, if we had to do it in a dire situation, for a space, I'm just throwing it out there because, I think that it's imperative we try to figure something out to retain that service to us, even though it's not always been the greatest, so just that.
We got brand new remodeled office space in Marquette Community Center. Kim?
Did I hear you say, Christine, that the enrollment office is empty, the old enrollment office?
It's not empty now. We have the natural resource staff in there, the fishing, wildlife crew in there.
Okay, I heard you say enrollment office at one point.
Yeah, I use that as the name of the building. I apologize. But it's one right next to where natural resources is on Shunk. So now they have taken both of those buildings. Yeah. Used to
Okay.
be those things,
And
yeah.
then we're talking about housing, wanting to have space in the Sioux for people to, I thought we had a house down on J.K. Lumsden Way that was for that.
I think they've turned that back into residential. Do you remember that whole discussion?
Well, it must have happened after I left.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I remember it being part of it when I was on the board last time, and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went back to a housing unit, resident unit.
Is that the last of your board concerns, Kim?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Moving on to Rob.
I only have 2, and they were kind of already discussed. Actually, I have 7, but I'm going to stick to 2 for tonight. The first one is the constitutional amendments. Let's schedule something. I would like to do it right now if we can.
Well, there's a little bit of reality there. I lost a pretty good chunk of that data, probably 2 months' work I have to rebuild, not the whole document, but a pretty healthy piece. The last version I had, I did not email to anybody. So I'm a bit behind. I will need a little time to recreate some of that work. Didn't lose it all, but a pretty healthy chunk is gone.
Are you talking about the
Draft Constitution.
Yeah, but are you talking about the suggested revisions that you
Yeah,
sent?
yeah, that draft.
I thought we did get it in an email.
Not the last one. The last one we talked about was a memo on a business board. That's the last thing I had sent you. And through that process, I was still going in and making a lot of changes that had some playing with things. No, you don't. I never sent it to you. You got the business board one. That's the last one we met on.
Okay, no, I remember you saying one is not, that you don't consider it confidential and it can be shared.
Yeah, that was the business board one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I need a little bit of time to kind of go back and recreate my work.
Okay, and then the other one is to do with the federal legislations. I know that we have been keeping up on it, and we have, I think, 4 people going to MAST who are going to be advocating on our position. The issue that I have is that we're not being clear to the membership of what the impact of those legislations could be, the reality of it. So I think we need to tie in our legislative department. And I would like a PR given to the membership, one on, and not just to the membership, but definitely to the membership, and also to the public in general of where we stand on it. I think that's important, and I think that we need to be more vocal and more out there. So I would like to request a resolution be drafted that we put out a PR to include what the impact of the executive orders or any federal or state legislation will be on us, and to release an official position of our tribe and what we are actually going to advocate for, because I've been getting a lot of questions by membership, and I can't single-handedly determine what the position of this tribe is. So I think that that's important, that we have PR that notifies our members that, hey, this is a reality, and it's these are the potential impacts on our tribe. Here's our position, and here's what we're doing about it. I think that's important, and I would like to do that at the minimum once a month. So I would like that, and that's all I have.
Lana?
Yeah, I couldn't really agree with you more, Rob, because not only does the membership need that information, but the board of directors do. You know, we don't have a setting right now on what our position is on consultations. We don't have a mechanism to set up to know. I hear through the grapevine if board members are attending certain things, and I appreciate what you guys do. The most, and you know, this is going to shock people, but the most information I've gotten was from Aaron in the emails that he sends to us about what our position is and what's going on out at the federal level. So I appreciate that, Tyler, too. So I think not only does the membership need that information, but the board does. So I think at least once monthly, it should sit down and say, you know, this is what we have, this is our position, so the board knows, the membership knows, and we're all on the same page. We really do not, I can't even tell you, and I appreciate appreciate, the chairman being gone, and he's there today. I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what I don't know anything. I don't know if everybody does, or if I'm just in the dark. Does anybody know?
It's the HHS consultation with the,
Yeah.
what's it,
Director Hertel, MDHHS consultation.
And that's great, but as Rob just said, I mean, if he was asked today, if I was asked today, I don't know what our position is down there or what is being said. So I completely agree with you. We have to get better at that.
I think I can tell you one of our primary positions as a tribe, and for all tribes, is that Michigan has to get out of the way of CMS reimbursements. It's been an issue that was brought up at UTM, that was addressed at UTM by another tribe, and every tribe agreed. There's no tribe that disagreed there, that they're all having issues with Medicaid and Medicare reimbursements because the state makes us prove, even though we should not have to do that, because it should really be federal CMS to federal, which is a tribe, and the state makes us go through MCOs who delay payments and then give us a fraction. So that's one of the big ones on the list that he's addressing. As far as everything else, James drove down with him tonight, and I think Christine was going to update. Aaron, go ahead, and then Christine.
Yeah, just real quickly, so this is just like in my nature, right? So it's not really difficult for me to do. And I like doing it, and I'm actually coaching tribal leaders all across the country about engaging and writing letters and involving themselves. And but I'm not doing any of that speaking on behalf of the Sioux tribe, so I'm very careful in the way that I phrase that. But the other piece that we need is we need a rapid response on our website. And so here's the thing, though, okay? That wasn't possible until just recently. But really, a lot of tribal members are asking, what can we do? We are the largest tribe east of the Mississippi. We will never, ever have any influence over our congressman, right? That's not going to happen. He fought and he voted to repeal the ACA like 60 times. He's never going to support third-party reimbursement, all of that. But we do have 2 senators, and we also have tribal members that live all over the country that could write a letter. And if we draft up the letters, and it needs to be more than monthly, every time there's some attack or some threat, we need to post on our website, here's what the issue is. We need to be nonpartisan in everything that we do because we don't want to turn people off. We post it, here's a draft letter, here's a link, and I've been using an automated link. All you got to do is click it. It tells you who your congressman is or your congresswoman or your senator. And then click on it. They can download the letter. They can just sign the letter, and they can send it off. And one thing that does work is the abundance of tribal members that contact their legislators, except for our congressman. They do listen, and they do respond. And so that's the only way we're going to be able to try to stave off some of these real serious retributional cuts to Indian country. That's what's happening, so.
Yeah, well, in response to that, Aaron, I know that you've been on one, and I was recently on one, where we've had tribal members going on consultation calls representing the tribe. And the government hasn't been putting a stop to it, so I know it's happened at least twice now. And I think our people need to also be aware of the danger of that, because the consultation process is government to government, and somehow they've been getting on there and being able to take up tribal leaders' times when you have like hundreds of tribal leaders across the country on these calls.
The reason that's dangerous is because on the one that I was on, it wasn't too bad because it was consistent with our position, right? But what if they go out and start trying to find Indians that will be an Indian for hire to tell them what they want to hear? And it will not be our position. Like, oh yeah, we don't have a problem, let's shut down JKL. You know, well, we heard it from the Indians, they were on the call, we had a consultation, they said get rid of JKL. So it has to be, and they're not following the fidelity of the consultation process. There is federal consultation for Interior, for the BIA, for HHS, there's policies. But we need to be out front, pushing our information out, and we have an army of tribal members that are asking, how can we help?
Absolutely. Christine, go ahead and finish your response.
Yeah, I wanted to answer Alana's question because today, what our chairman is out down doing, along with a number of our departmental staff, is to represent us with Dr. Hertel from Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. This is a yearly meeting, once a year, that she holds with us. Last year, she couldn't make it. It was held here in Sault Ste. Marie. So this is under the legislative department, and we prepare white papers for that. I have a copy, and I have the copy of the agenda. I will send that out to you immediately, so you do have that. I got it this morning, and so I just assumed the board was included. I'll double check from now on and make sure the board gets those. We've done this for a number of things. We do it for the legislative meeting with the representatives at the I-500 and different areas that I direct all the departments, they've got issues, to write it in a white paper. And I actually have the samples for you. I've been having them on my desk for a long time. Yeah, brown papers, but, we go back and forth on that, right? And so it's been very effective. And that is for specific issues that we've been invited to. The legislative department prepares all the stuff for individual meetings at Mass and to the NCAI and all of that. And you guys probably have been involved in that. And I think some of you have participated in those schedules. But that's active and ongoing. But it's led by Mike McCoy and Shannon Shelby.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, the conversation balances on our expertise as well and the stuff that we're familiar with and where the conversation's headed. So oftentimes, like, we go in there with white papers, maybe red papers, brown papers.
Brown papers.
and start with one thing, but then realize the conversation needs to go a different direction. It's actually been beneficial, so.
So the example is that I missed, Tyler was at his meeting, and he asked, how much fish did we put out? And I realized that we really didn't have a concrete document that really explains it all, so we got that already. I did send that out to all the board, just so you would have those talking points if you need it. Yeah. So we're really trying to develop talking points for a number of different areas and then share that. So if you're questioned about something, you'll have the information, the facts.
Especially when the Secretary of Health is talking about Make America Healthy again, and I'm trying to make a point of our food systems and us being the original providers in this country, and the tribes all knowing their own food systems. Like, that's what I was trying to get from them really quickly, so I could make that point and actually use real data of what we're actually already doing. And the information is beneficial. I don't.
And I just can't even, and I remember getting those white papers for the I-500 for all the legislative, because I didn't make the reception up here. And that was good, very, very good information. Actually, I used it in a meeting that I had to just address with the members. And I completely appreciate everything when you guys go out to the federal government, the state government, and advocate on those things. I just think we need to get a lot better, to Rob's point, a lot better on, what is being said, so that we're clear on what we can say to the members. Because I can tell you what, sitting in front of those elders at their monthly meeting, and we have three of them a month. If we could cite those things, we're not good at always getting that stuff. So I think that is a responsibility for us to know, and then we can pass that on to the tribal members. So I appreciate that.
Well, it would be a lot easier if we separated the powers and our focus was that.
Right, absolutely.
It's one of the things that I noticed last month is we actually had the time to do our job as tribal leaders and do the consultation at the federal level quite a bit, because we were down in Lansing, D.C. a couple times already. So it's on you for board concerns.
Okay, yep. And it just,
Oh, you got one more, Rob?
No, I just wanted.
Go ahead, Rob.
No, I just wanted to make sure there's follow-through with this, that, it's a good discussion, but what do we do about it? So I want to
One suggestion,
get a little bit of
I just gave it to Christine real quick, is to have a folder in a drive that we have access to, but also somebody should send that link to the board in a regular email, because not everybody's adept at finding it. But now you can link to the drive, and all they got to do is click on the link, and then all the position papers and all the issues that have been talked about so far, board members can go and just click on it, and you can get a quick briefing.
Yeah, that would help us, but my main concern is that this information isn't being properly distributed to the membership. So I've gotten a lot of questions lately about, and even blatant attacks online that I've seen, not towards me specifically, but towards the governing body as a whole, is that we're just not doing our job, which is not true, because we engage in every level of government. But when you don't tell the membership that, what our official stance is, it very much so looks like we're not doing our job. And so I think, and not only is it important for the membership to know what our stance is, but it's also important for the membership to know what the potential impact is, because that's going to engage them more. If they know that, hey, this is real, like here's how real it is. Like anybody knows me knows that I don't travel much, especially to DC. I don't care for it that much there, but I'm going because I absolutely do not like going to DC, but I'm going because it's absolutely crucial right now that we're there.
We have 4 of us going, so I think we got it covered.
Yeah.
Anybody else wants to
And so I want a little bit of follow through here, and I don't know if it needs to be done by resolution, but we need to be absolutely certain that we are getting this information to the membership. And we also, you know, we need to deploy a certain amount of diplomacy, so we can't go there, you know, fingers in their face and ready to fight. But we do need that kind of pressure, and we have a whole bunch of members who are really stepping up, and I think that it's going to be important for us as the governing body to support them in what they're doing, because they're raising awareness. So I think that we need to really fully engage, and that's going to take open meeting with our legislative department, where the membership can hear the explanations of each of the federal either executive orders or legislations within the budget that's going on, and they could hear in an open meeting us discuss that with our legislative department and what the potential impact would be. And then we need to have follow through to state our official position. It's extremely important that our membership knows where we stand, but another component to that is if you don't think the largest tribe putting out, largest tribe east of the Mississippi putting out official statements of that we are not going to stand for this, it doesn't play into the strategy there. I mean, that would be naive to think. And if we could be the leadership among tribes and other tribes step up and start really pushing the PR on it, I think we can make a difference. But I think until we have action and follow through, we're not going to. So this is why I brought up earlier that I want to have a direct report from the legislative department, and maybe it doesn't have to continue forever, but with the current state of affairs of our nation, I think that it's important. And I think that we need to have those open dialogues with that department on a regular basis.
So I agree and I disagree. I think it has to happen forever. So, Lana, board concerns?
Yep, mine's just real quick. We talked about it, Lana. I know that you worked on it in the past, and that is the quarterly reviews open to the membership. You know, if we get back on schedule with that, you know, I didn't make every single one of them, and I can agree with Aaron when, you know, sometimes it wasn't in attendance as much, but there was members here, the staff were here, and that gave the ability of program managers to say, hey, look, this is working, this isn't working, and it was across the table communication between the board and the program managers, and it gave the members the insight on what was going on, new programs, stuff that, you know, they learned a lot from that. So just to get back at that would be really important.
All right, any other board concerns? All right, hearing none. Earlier today, before our meeting, we had a closed discussion. We said that we wanted to continue the closed discussion tonight. Are we still in agreement that we want to do that? All right, so the board agrees that we do not need to continue the closed discussion, so I just wanted to make sure everybody had a chance. I don't want to get blamed for shutting anybody down. I can't tell you what a closed discussion was. Nice try. Yeah, nice try. All right, hearing no other concerns and the fact that the board no longer wants to complete their closed discussion, we will adjourn. Thank you very much.